A lot of people in my comments ask me what they should do when they've defeated the final boss in Valheim. Well, in today's video, I'm going to give you a ton of suggestions on how you can prevent yourself from getting bored in Valheim. So the first thing I want to suggest is actually something you shouldn't do, and that is use cheats in Valheim. Now, yes, I do use cheats from time to time in certain Valheim worlds that I have running in order to make faster and better and more efficient tutorials, for example, or to just speed up the general making of videos or give them a better look and feel. However, if you are getting bored of Valheim or you're not sure what to do, I don't suggest that you use cheats to spawn in loads of items, but instead grind through getting them yourself and doing those builds and things with them. Hey gamers, I just want to say a quick thank you to today's video sponsor, Surfshark VPN. Now, if you're not using a VPN service for all your online stuff, you are at risk, and Surfshark will protect you against all that across all devices, all your operating systems, everything. Now, the good thing about it is, for example, when you're connecting to a game server to do online multiplayer, you don't know how well protected that is, and people can hack, they can get your IP, things can go wrong. And what Surfshark do is, for just a few dollars a month, offer you the ability to protect yourself from this happening. But there are like tons of other benefits too to using a VPN. I mean, for example, I like to watch Netflix from time to time. So what I can do with my VPN is say that I'm in England. You can choose the geographic location, which will allow you to unlock restricted content in whichever country you're in. The biggest thing about it though, guys, is just protecting yourself and keeping yourself safe, which in today's online environment has never been more important. So there's a link in the description, and if you use code Kysen, you actually get 3 months completely free. So you can try it 100% risk-free, and if you don't like it, don't continue it. And if you do continue thereafter, you're gonna get an 83% discount. It's a massive discount, guys. So thank you to them for sponsoring it, and do check them out. The next thing to say is build your base in such a way that it always leaves room for expansion and for more things that you are able to do. Otherwise, once you finish your base, you'll just kind of feel done, and that's obviously not a good thing for your motivation. So the ways that you can do this, for example, on the map right here, I have tons of space around my base where I can expand this out. And the good thing about that is it means there's new challenges I can add at all times, but I can compartmentalize it a little bit. So you can see here, we've got like a walled in area, and I'm working on this. I'm working on different sections of this at any one time. And by doing that, my base will always have other areas it can expand out to, but also we can contain what we're doing at the current time so it still feels good and looks neat. There's literally always ways you can improve your base and add to it, even if they're not functional. Some of them might be just aesthetical changes, but there's always something you can do. So building your base with the room to keep expanding will mean you'll have much more longevity in your game. My next suggestion is to find some sort of good multiplayer server. You can make these just with your friends, or find public ones, or even join mine, which is where I am right now. This is Kysen. There'll be a link in the description if you guys are interested in joining this server. We have a great community on here, and I think everyone on here would join me in agreeing that it makes it so much more fun. They're in voice chats all the time, and I've been hanging out in quite a few of those myself as a skeleton comes to attack me on here, and I stream on here once a month and stuff like that, and it definitely just makes things there's a skeleton surprise. Oh my goodness. Anyway, point is, join a multiplayer server. Yeah, there's good things happening on them, and it can make things a lot more fun and interesting, and you can get inspired with builds and do community builds and all of that sort of stuff. My next tip would be not to have an end goal in the game of Valheim. Some people would say that once you've killed all 5 bosses, that's you having completed the game, and I gotta say, I disagree with this. I don't think that is necessarily what the game is all about. Sure, the bosses are a good part of the game, they're fun, they're challenging, and something to work towards, but the game is whatever you want it to be. You could build mega bases, you could build mega bases in every biome, you could build 10 mega bases in every biome if you really want to, but the point is, it's completely up to you how you do that. I wouldn't say you should start any Valheim world with any particular end goal. You should just enjoy the game as you go through, and spend a lot of time doing what you enjoy, and don't be limited to just saying it's 5 bosses and once that's done, the game is complete. The next thing I would say is to make sure you've got a good amount of variety in your worlds. I think sometimes it can be nice to have 2 or 3 different build projects going on in different biomes and different places across your world, and be working on them all simultaneously. That way, when you log on, you can choose whatever you want to do on that day, and that means you're keeping things fresh each and every day, doing something a little bit different. On the note of variety, I think it's important to know what you enjoy about the game, and don't be afraid to spend all of your time doing that. If you're a builder, you're not worried about the bosses, maybe you're just going to go and complete them in order to get yourself some extra build materials, but maybe you only need to complete 2 or 3 to get to the stage you need to be at. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do the game in any particular way. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. So know what you enjoy, and just find ways of doing lots of that. With building, there's obviously all different options. With combat, there's still different options. You could respawn the bosses, you can fight them in different ways, you can fight them with your own rules imposed and all that kind of stuff. So play the game however you enjoy and don't be afraid to keep doing it that way. My next suggestion is to look at joining Valheim communities. There are loads of people making content on Valheim on YouTube and Twitch and that sort of thing, and you can get heavily involved with their communities, of course, in the comment sections and by hanging out with them on live streams and all of that sort of stuff, and also their discords and things like that. Now I have all of this stuff going on myself. We've got a good Valheim community in all of my things, so if you think you might be interested, we'd love to welcome you along to whichever community best suits you. All of my links are down in the description and I hope to see you there. But it's a great place to share your builds, talk about different things, get inspiration, and just generally hang out. We talk a lot of rubbish as well, but it's fun to do, and so I do recommend you look to find a community that suits you. Now when it comes to building projects, one little thing I would say, don't try to do too much. Don't try to take on a project that is monstrously huge. Taking on a big project can be good. It gives you something to really focus on and work towards, and it will take up a lot of your time. However, sometimes we can all be guilty of this, where we think this will be a really good idea because it looks really cool, but then we start getting into how we're going to make it and we realize that we're going to need about 4 lifetimes to complete it. And you know, sometimes we don't all have that amount of time to play the game. We've all got different commitments, whether it's studying, work, whatever it may be for you. So I would say it's better to do something smaller that you expand over time rather than trying to do too much, because you'll end up getting disheartened and losing interest in the game if you do too much of that. Now my next tip is for those of you feeling a little bit more adventurous and wanting to really spice things up, and that is look at getting into Valheim mods. There's a lot of different mods out there available to you, and they can change the game in all different kinds of ways. So again, you can focus on things that you personally really enjoy or want to change about the game and get into them. There are tons of good resources online, which I'm not going to jump into in today's video in order to keep it short, but I do recommend that you look at checking out mods. Don't be afraid to play around with them and look at them. You will get the advice you need online from different people on YouTube and wherever else, and it can be a fun way to spice up the game and do things a little bit differently. My next tip is to do things with your own rules. Now I touched on this earlier. For example, you can spawn back in bosses and fight them in your own way, right? You can impose different things, like for example, killing Eikthyr with nothing but your bare hands, for example. I mean, there's tons of different things you can do. You can get very creative with this, but basically by doing this, you can actually change the game, really. You can do whatever you want to do in the game in your own way with your own imposed rules, and set yourself little challenges. And then if you're part of some of the communities I mentioned before, you can challenge your friends, you can do things on servers to come up with new challenges, or even just share with your friends the different things that you have done through screenshots or videos or however you want to do that. But I think doing this can be definitely fun and a way of changing the game a little bit to suit your own needs. Another thing you can do that will take up quite a lot of time and give you interesting projects and things to work on is to add a lot of different detail to your builds. By doing this, you can spend a lot of time trying to get different things that you can build, maybe even building things in the game that you're not supposed to. For example, when I've done some farming videos on my channel, I've built things like scarecrows and I've built a windmill and stuff like that. Now, this is stuff that I know you can get the windmill in game, by the way, but I built one that isn't the one you can get in game, right, to add an aesthetical sort of approach. So you can come up with all different little details you add to your build. Get creative, try and find new ways of doing things like lighting or hiding chests or having secret rooms or adding just a lot of detail, right? Because this will add to your builds, it'll be challenging, and it will mean you'll spend a lot more time on your builds. So when you think you finished the build, you actually haven't. And if you enjoy that sort of attention to detail, it can give you a lot more stuff to do in your world. Another thing you can do is look to build bases in all different biomes. Here we are on Ravenheim. We've got the plains base that we just started working on. Some of you who have been watching the motor fights and things, you guys would have seen we had a mountain biome base as well. Now, obviously, each biome comes with its own challenges. So when you're doing this, you can actually build a base to have specific requirements for different areas to make them safe, to grow different crops in this case maybe, or get different resources, and to like basically come up with ways of combating the different challenges. Like for example, in the mountain biome it's very cold and you need to protect yourself from that. So if you build a base in all different biomes, this will give you tons more bases to build, and honestly this alone could be hundreds if not more of hours of gameplay extra that you'll have in your Valheim worlds. Another great way to get inspired on my own personal experience is to watch Valheim YouTubers and streamers and get involved with what they're doing, because you'll see the different builds and things they come up with, and sometimes you'll see a simple idea that'll inspire you to do something in your own worlds. And obviously when you do that, then it will give you new build projects or even things you can discuss with them. And if you ever want to discuss anything with me or talk Valheim or whatever, the best place to do that is definitely in my streams. There'll be a link in the description to my Twitch. Hope to see some of you guys over there. You can feel free to ask me anything. It doesn't even have to be Valheim related, but you can be like, hey, Why is Karen in this box? And what are glizzies? And I can explain all this on my Twitch. So I hope to see you there, guys. But it is really a good way of trying to get some inspiration for your own worlds too. But if all that's said and done and you still feel like you're bored, maybe it really is time to start a new world, guys. Sometimes starting afresh can really be the inspiration you need to do things differently and better and really enjoy the game. But that's it for my ideas of what you can do when you're bored in Valheim. What do you call a woman with one leg? Eileen. What's the best thing about Switzerland? I don't know, but the flag is a big plus. What sits at the bottom of the sea and twitches? A nervous wreck. What do nosy peppers do? They get jalapeno business. What did the 0 say to the 8? Nice belt. What did one hat say to the other? You wait here, I'll go on ahead.